Hey, how's it going everyone? It's Lee Halliday, and in this video I am going to create an image uploader using dropzone, react-dropzone, and we're going to upload directly from the browser to Cloudinary. Cloudinary is a great image hosting solution that you can use, and often you'll find yourself landing in the free tier, so you don't even need to necessarily pay for all that it gives you. But what it allows you to do is basically upload an image in whatever size the user gives it to you as, and then you can just resize it on the fly, on demand, by just changing some query parameters in the URL. Thank you to KwesForms for partnering with me on this video. KwesForms is a developer-focused form service ideal for web agencies, and they've just released version 2 of their product, and I wanted to mention one of my favorite features. If you head on over to their documentation, they have a section about emails. And what they do is provide you an easy way to send emails both as a notification to you as the sort of form creator and also a confirmation to the user who submitted the form. And it's all easily editable in Markdown, which is something us as developers love. For a limited time only, KwesForms is giving 50% off any annual plan for 1 year if you use the coupon code LEE50. So head on over to kwes.io, check them out, and let's get back to the video. So let's get started with react-dropzone. I've got it open and it gives you a nice simple usage guide, and when I was learning how to use this is definitely where I started. And we're going to actually copy a couple lines of code to avoid having to type these out and for me to have to memorize the order that they go in, but I'm going to explain what they do. So going over into our Next.js application, I've already committed at a starting point for anyone that wants to follow along, and I'll link to that in the description. And I've already installed the different packages we need. We're going to use a couple different ones from Cloudinary, and we'll go into what they actually do later. But right now we're working with react-dropzone. So we're inside Next.js, but we're going to be spending most of our time in this one file, the index.js page, which is the home component. So I'm going to paste in those lines of code, and then we'll go over what they do. So the first one uses the use callback hook. So we need to uncomment out this line here. And what we're defining is an on-drop callback function. And what use callback hook does is it basically, the function you pass in, it will declare that function once and sort of memoize it. So unless the parameters you pass here change, which in our case they don't because there are none, you're going to get the same function back every time. It won't be regenerated, giving you a new function. And we're going to pass this on-drop function to use dropzone hook. And that gives us a few things back that we're going to use down here inside of our return code. So we're going to pass a couple other things. We're going to pass accepts, I believe it is. And accepts, what it does is it tells you to say, I only want to accept image/star. So basically any type of image. And we'll say multiple false because we just want to accept one image at a time. So if we convert our div here that says dropzone into something that actually uses dropzone, and we need to first uncomment out this hook so that it actually works. There we go. So now it's working correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is pass in these getRootProps function call, which will splat out a number of different props from this function here. And inside of our div, we're going to put an input, and on our input, we're going to do the same thing with getInputProps function call to splat out all of those different input props. And then why don't we add a class to this? Because right now, if we were to look at what it looks like, nobody would know that this is a dropzone. So inside of the styles that I'm going to import, I've just got a couple styles declared, one for dropzone, another when it's active, and another that I'm actually not using, so let's delete that. So dropzone, I'm going to add that here. So we're going to say class name as backticks, so I can embed styles.dropzone. Dropzone. So there we go. We have a nice orange dropzone. So now the users know when or where they can drop a file in. And what I also wanted to do was use this is drag active. So what I can do is say is drag active. Ternary, if it is, we'll say use the active class, otherwise null. So now when I open this up, I've got this beautiful hairless dog. So when I drag it over, it changes the drop zone to purple to sort of indicate that it's active. We could sort of do whatever we want there to indicate to the user that they're dropping something in. So what I want to do is play around with this onDrop callback that gives me some accepted files. So why don't we just start by console.logging them. So these are the accepted files. And we'll just take a look at what it gives us. So we'll drop the hairless dog on. So it gives us an array of type file. And this is actually what we want to now upload to Cloudinary. So this is the actual JavaScript representation of a file. And it gives us the MIME type, image/JPEG, the name, the size, all of that stuff. So this is where we are going to start to work and upload the file to Cloudinary. And the first thing we need to do in Cloudinary is get a URL. And this URL, it comes from some of these account details up here. So the first one is the cloud name and also the base URL that has your cloud name in it. I always forget what it looks like, so I put it in this nice README here so that I don't forget. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Paste this in. So this is the URL I'm going to post to, except I'm not going to use this.context.cloudName. I need to get my cloud name from somewhere because you need that built into the URL that you're going to be posting the data to. So I have put all of my environment variables in .env.local. And I've got a combination of keys that I want public. So I've prefixed them with next_public to basically include them in the public Webpack build of this Next.js app. And then I've got another one without that that's secret, and it's going to be on the server side only. So I need this cloud name here. So we'll go back here and we'll say process.env.nextPublic Cloudinary cloud name. And we're going to make a fetch request to send this some data to this URL. So because we want it to be fetched, we're going to have to make this an async function so that we can say const response is await a call to fetch, and we're going to fetch this URL. And we need to say that we're going to be posting data, and we need to tell it what the body is. So here I'm going to create something called form data, and we'll put it into a variable up here. So const form data. So there's an object that comes in JavaScript built into the browser called form data. And basically, we just create it like this. And now we can say form data.append. And then it's sort of key value pair. So the first one is the name of this. So we're going to say this is the file. And then whatever the value is. So right here we've got multiple files, accepted files. So that tells me we actually need to put this into a loop. So why don't we say accepted files dot for each. So this is going to be the async function that gives me the accepted file. And we can move all of this inside of the function. So I don't need this to be async anymore because my inner one here is. And the rest should stay as is. We don't need to redeclare the URL every time because it's not changing. And we need to actually pass the accepted file in. So another thing we need to pass when we're doing what's called an unsigned image upload directly to Cloudinary is pass something called the something preset. Let's go back to my notes. It's called the upload preset. Upload preset. So there's two ways you can upload data to Cloudinary. There's signed and unsigned. And if you're going to do unsigned, you don't need any backend at all, but it's a little bit insecure. And that's why you have to go into the Cloudinary dashboard and enable it, because it's not enabled by default. So if we click this little settings button and go into upload, we can come down here, this big enable unsigned uploading. So if we just click that, it's going to create us this something called an upload preset, and it's going to give us this name. So I'm going to copy this here. But what this will allow us to do is upload using this upload preset in an unsigned way. So I'm going to go to this env.local, update this next public Cloudinary upload preset in my environment variable. And I just need to reboot my Next app so that it picks up the changes to the environment file. You can see here loaded env from the file that I'm looking at. And now we can go back and pass this upload preset. Oh boy. This is the one I want. Process.env. Like this. So here's the form data we're going to be posting to the server. It's going to give us a response back. Why don't we convert that response to data? So we'll say await response JSON, because it's another promise. And then why don't we just console.log this data out to see what it looks like. So if we come back here, let's go to our dashboard so that we can see the image when it uploads. We'll come to our app and we'll drag and drop that beautiful dog in. So the hairless dog. And what it gives us back is the data that comes from the response of sending that information unsigned using the upload preset we just created to Cloudinary. And so it gives us a bunch of information back, the asset ID, and there should be one here called the public ID. So this is the important thing that you would want to save. And if you want to save this to a database, you'd want to basically send this to your backend and store it in your database or wherever you're storing information. I'm not dealing with a database in this demo. So what I'm going to actually do to just make this demo work, I'm going to go here and copy the response that we got back from Cloudinary, and I'm going to put it in some state that I create. So I'm going to create some new state here, and we'll call it uploaded files, and then set uploaded files. And this is equal to use state hook that would normally start out as empty, but I'm going to paste in this file that I've just uploaded. So it's got some information like the public ID that I mentioned, what type of image it is, the width and the height, etc. So you're more than welcome to save all of this information to your database, but the only thing you truly need is this public ID. So now that I have this into state, I'm just going to quickly display it on the screen. So I'm going to come down here below my div and just put a UL and then iterate over the uploaded images, the uploaded files using map. So that would give us a file, and we want to return a list item that has a key. So we can just use the file.public ID as the key here. And for now, why don't we just output that onto the screen, public ID. So this is a representation of the image we just uploaded. If we come back to our Cloudinary dashboard, we should see the hairless dog in here. So it is in our Cloudinary account. Beautiful. But now I want to display this this image to the user on the screen. So there's actually a Cloudinary React library that I have already installed, and it has something you can import, a component called image. So down here in the setup, it gives you a little example of what it looks like. And why don't we copy and paste this so that we can change it to be used inside of our demo. So this is the way I do development. I typically go to the docs or the GitHub repository page and I look at their example, and that's how I learn how to use all these tools. So me going and like copying and paste stuff, that's sort of exactly how I do my development to start. And then you'd go into the actual documentation when you need like the real details of all the options and how to configure this and use it. So I'm just going to uncomment this image component here, and we'll come down and basically put this image component inside of our list item. So we need the cloud name. So I already had that in my environment variable. So I can say this is process.env.cloudName. So we need the public ID. This would be file.public_ID. And then this is the beauty of Cloudinary, really. You can start to pass all of these different transformations, and it does on the fly, sort of on demand transformations of your images. So we're giving this a width of 300 with a crop of scaling it, so it will scale it down to fit inside of this width. So if we come back here, there's our beautiful, beautiful dog on the screen. So why don't we add another file? But before I do that, I'm just going to come and instead of just console.logging the data, why don't I save the data into this state that I've got? So I can call set uploaded files. And we'll do the function callback approach. So this will give us the old data, and we want to return a copy of that plus the new data. So we've just got this data here. So why don't we drag and drop a different image? Let's see what I've got. Here's this NASA space image. So I'll drag and drop this. And once it's done uploading, it will add it to my state and re-render and show it below here. So again, this is obviously not saving the data anywhere. It's still just in the browser. So we would want to allow the user to submit that public ID back to the server so we can save it in Postgres using Prisma or MongoDB using Mongoose or something like that to actually persist this data somewhere. So I mentioned these were unsigned, meaning you don't have to be authenticated. Any user could sort of come here and upload data to our Cloudinary account. That may not be what we want. So the solution to that is to have a signed approach, but that involves a little bit more work on the back end. So because we're Next.js and Next.js comes with a back end, we can actually implement a little cloud function in here in our API page I set up called sign. And here's where we can basically generate signatures that the front end will use to submit uploads. And what you can do here is you could guard this saying only authenticated users can make requests to create a signature for an upload. But why don't we get started in terms of generating a signature? So the first thing we're going to use is this Cloudinary package, and we're using v2 of this. And what this will give us is a little function that allows us to generate a signature. So I've got some, no, I don't have copy and paste here. What's happening to me? Perfect. So I'm going to link to how I learned sort of how to generate this. So we're going to be very much using this demo here from what they call signed upload video tutorial, but it doesn't have to just be for a video, it can be for sort of anything. So we've already got an instance of the Cloudinary package, and we're going to be using a utility function called API sign request. So I'm just going to copy this and then we'll tweak it to make it exactly what we need. So we'll go inside of our function, our serverless function, and this receives two things. It receives information about the request and then the response that we're going to send back down to the browser. So we haven't actually called this yet from the browser, but we're going to do that after we finish creating it. So the first thing they want us to do is get a timestamp. I'm going to pop this over to const instead. We don't need to console.log it. And then the next thing we're going to use is this Cloudinary package to create a signed request. And what we need to pass in are definitely the timestamp. And then there's a bunch of other options you can pass in if you want. If you want to eagerly resize the image so that by the time the user requests this, it's already been done, you can do that. We're not going to. And you can give it a public ID if you want. So if you want to predetermine what the file name should be called, you can do that. We're going to leave that blank, but we need to pass in our API secret for Cloudinary. So where you find this is on here on the dashboard. So you can just say copy to clipboard. I've already put it in our .env.local file, so we're just going to copy that. I'll have to change mine after because now the world knows what my Cloudinary secret is. But coming back here, we can paste this in. So basically, here's all of the options that we want to sign and our secret. What this will give us back is a signature. And then we need to pass that signature back from the response so that our client can use this as it's going to directly upload to Cloudinary. So signature, we can just get rid of this. Timestamp, get rid of this. And because we have these variables defined here, that's what it's going to return. So going back to the client, specifically the place where we're sort of generating the form data that we are going to upload from the browser to Cloudinary, we need to get access to this signature and timestamp. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say const signature and timestamp is equal to await get signature. So that's a function we're going to go and declare just down here below our component. So it will be async function get signature. And in here, we're going to make a request to our own Next.js backend, this API/sign path. So what we can do is we can say const response equals await a fetch to /API sign. And then we'll get the data from that. So we'll await the response.json. And then we'll put it into signature and timestamp variables so that we can return signature and timestamp. So this was sort of, you don't have to do this because that's what is returning to us from the server. So you could just say return data here. You could even just say return this. But just to sort of be explicit so that the next user, what did I do? I missed something. Const data equals await response.json. Just so that the next user who looks at this code knows what the server is returning and then what we're returning from the function, I'm going to be overly explicit here and just return it like this. So this get signature is being used up here as we're iterating over each of our dropped files into the drop zone. That will give us a signature and a timestamp. And what we can do now is we don't need the upload preset anymore, but we can go and we can add the signature. So we can pass that up in our request. We can add the timestamp. Like that in our request. And we also have to pass up the, the API key. API key. So we'll append this to our form as well, API key. So this would come from process.env.next public Cloudinary key. Just like this. So instead of sending up this preset, we're basically saying, here's the signature of all of my parameters that are signed. Here's the timestamp that I'm uploading this as, and here's my API key as well. So API key is a public thing, so you don't have to feel too bad about exposing this on the client. It's sort of the only way to do it. What you don't want to expose is your secret here, like I am. So coming back here, we should be able to try this again, and hopefully it will upload to our server, this time using a signed request rather than these unsigned presets above here. We didn't have to change anything here below. So we'll come back here, refresh the page. So that removes our space from state. So what we can do is come and let's find a new image. So here's where I normally work in my apartment. So we'll drag this here and wait for it to finish processing. And there is the desk. So just to go over the requests that were made. it first made a request to our own Next.js app to generate this signature. And this is secure because the only way you can generate the signatures with the secret key that isn't available publicly inside of this Next.js app. It's only on the server side, which is actually secret. So here we could guard if we wanted to and only make this available to authenticated users. So what we could do here inside of sign is sort of check to make sure authenticated. So basically only allow them to get this signature if they're an authenticated user. We'll put the old to do here so that future Lee remembers to do that. And so that gives us the signature and the timestamp, and then we make that upload request, posting the actual image to Cloudinary. And as a response back, it gives us all of this information, including the public ID that allows us to render out this on the screen. And a cool thing, as I mentioned, we can use these transforms in real time. So if I just change this to say a 100 width, now it's showing us a different version of the image that was generated dynamically. So this isn't just a massive image rescaled, it's actually 100 pixel image. So if I were to copy this and paste it here, that's the actual size of the image. And if we were to go into the network request, and let's close this, we can see just how big they are. They're basically 1 kilobyte. So that's the beauty of using smaller images to sort of match the actual size that's needed. You're only dealing with 1 kilobyte size of image versus the bigger ones, which were just say double or triple the size. It's showing a cache version. There we go, about 10 kilobytes. So it's quite a bit smaller for the scaled image. So that's all I wanted to cover in this video. Basically, we went and we implemented the drop zone to drag and drop files using this react-dropzone. With that in place, we worked and did an unsigned upload to Cloudinary. So we first went in here and we created that preset. And presets can be customized. So we can say, do we want to allow different things, like do we want it to generate the different colors in the image for us automatically? Do we want to include a quality analysis, background removal? What sort of image manipulations do we want to allow? So we can do a whole bunch of customization on this upload preset, but that allows us to upload directly from the browser to Cloudinary without any sort of backend at all. But it comes with some security risks. Basically, anybody can upload images and content to our Cloudinary, which could cost us money. So the solution to that is basically to change to a signed, passing up a signature rather than these upload presets. But for that, you need a backend. So we created our own signature generator using the sign backend sort of function, serverless function that will come with Next.js. And that will use our Cloudinary secret along with the timestamp to generate a signature for us. We could guard it to make sure that the user is authenticated so that you have to sign up first before being able to upload content. But with our little function here that gets the signature, we can now upload this image and file to Cloudinary without using the upload preset. And then when we get this back, we're basically just putting it into our state. And this is where you would, when the user clicks save, you would upload this to some other backend where you can persist this information about the image to your database so that you can show it when they refresh the page and whatnot. You can see that we're just losing stuff here because we're just storing it in state temporarily. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care. Bye.